Okay.
much, but
No, he's always typing too. I don't know what's going on.
All right, Wendy, whenever you're ready. All right, I'll call the meeting to order. It's at 5:30. Reading of the district's promise statement, providing an exceptional education where all students are known, valued, and empowered to thrive. Do we have any additional items for the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
so moved.
Motion made by Kevin Bourne. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Joni Olson. Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. All right, recognition of visitors and open forum. We have a few people. It looks like Michael Roy from the paper, and we have Susan from Lunchtime Solutions.
Marlene
And then Marlene is also out there. Thank you for coming. Positive recognition, and we don't have any resolutions. So positive recognition, a few things we have.
Yeah, we had track and field where we had both boys and girls up at state track and field on June 6th and 7th. So we had 4 boys participating and 6 girls participating. All of our athletes did very well. Lily Strauss took 9th in long jump, and then Ryan Kronbach took 4th in triple jump, 5th in high jump, and 8th in long jump. So our relays, they didn't make the finals, but they did well in their preliminaries. So proud of those students and look forward to going back to state track again next spring. Then also we had our boys golf team participate in the state golf tournament. They took 6th out of 8th place, so they did very well there. Mr. Burke, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I don't know, it was a great experience. Our top finisher was tied for 14th. And proud of the boys, and hopefully they're proud of themselves.
And yesterday JWP was very well represented in the parade for Haydays, because there was FFA, there was NHS, there was
Our marching band?
marching band, there was members from the swing show, Ethan, and then you got cleanup duty with NHS, saw that. Am I forgetting any other floats for school? I think that was- yeah. Any other good things? All right, we'll move on to reports and presentation. Student representatives report. I think Annika's getting some
Mike's?
mics for you guys. My feet are touching. I don't want to go that far.
Yeah, so we had a busy week for Haydays with all the parades and stuff, and a bunch of us kind of were doing things throughout the week. Bingo yesterday we were volunteering with. Oh goodness gracious.
Didn't you guys do the carnival too? Didn't NHS do the carnival?
Oh yes, yes.
Okay.
It's all blur from last week. Yes, NHS and FCCLA did the kitty carnival and the turtle races. And anything else?
Kind of like what Mr. Earler said, all the sports season wrapped up nicely, and then heard a lot of good things about graduation. People said it looked more put together than usual.
It was a big change from going outside to inside. So,
Can you get anything else?
I don't know, my brain's kind of everywhere right now.
all right, well, thank you. Move on to superintendent report.
Okay, so for the READ Act, we have 4 staff members that are training as that will be training our staff this fall. So they started their training this past week. We have credit recovery that is starting in the high school, with Mr. Rysdam's leading that. In the elementary, we have summer school services that are going on. We have some dyslexia, students that are getting some help with dyslexia this summer, along with targeted services where they can get help for math or reading. In community ed, we have all kinds of stuff going on. There's summer baseball, summer softball, swimming lessons, driver's ed. There's a football camp coming up later this summer. And if you haven't noticed, with construction happening or not happening due to the weather, so we're patiently waiting for the roof to get, for them to get going on the roof. We do have the air conditioning to the high school gym shut off, so as soon as they get here, they can get going on that portion of the building, so we can have the air conditioning back on before school starts. So they're a couple weeks behind as of right now, just due to weather and finishing up other jobs. As far as hiring right now, we have positions posted for paraprofessionals, both in the elementary and high school, and then also our behavior interventionist position is posted. We do have several applicants for that. They do have to be licensed teachers, because we pay for that out of a grant, and that's a requirement of the grant. And then some other stuff we're working on right now is, Adam, our tech director, is looking at improving the system for Chromebook collection and distribution, and then digitizing our academic and special education records. So those are good things that he's working on. And then I wanted to let everybody know that our custodians will all be gone tomorrow. They're going to be at a workshop in Lake Crystal. Any questions for me?
All right, thank you. We will move on to the QComp report.
Okay, so we'll kind of do an overview for QComp and kind of how we finished the year this year. First, just kind of a little bit about what QComp is, because I find some of the times I work within this, but not everybody knows exactly kind of what's going on. Essentially, QComp is the state program that is focused on teacher quality growth. In a nutshell, this is how we are looking at building instructional practice, building capacity within our staff. Things like PLCs and mentoring and the coaching work that I do and the leadership roles that we have available for our staff all kind of fall under this program. So basically it's just getting our teachers to identify things that they feel that they need to grow in and want to grow in, and help them work towards that growth area. So every staff member that I work with or that falls under this QComp program sets 3 types of goals. The first is the site goal. This is a building written goal. What has to be included in this statewide goal or site goal is super specific. The state literally lays out, in this assessment we will move from blank to blank in this grade rate. Like it's very, very scripted for the site goal. So our site goals are written the way the state mandates that they are written, which puts kind of like a limitation on it. All of the state cycles have to be focused on something related to a standardized assessment. For us, we use FastBridge as the one we are doing. It could be FastBridge, it could be MCAs, it could be a number of assessments that we could utilize for this. Here we are using FastBridge for this next year, but that one's very scripted from the state. Then the individual teachers get to set both professional and student growth goals. Their professional growth goal is something within their actual career that they want to work on. Now, this may be something like more effectively aligning assessments with mastery of content knowledge, or things like, I know my 8th grade science curriculum in units 2 and 3 are a little wishy-washy, and I would like to have more hands-on activities within there. Something along those lines. So it's something that they want to work on or build within their professional work. The other goal they set is their student growth goal. So this is something that they set for, that they want to see their students achieve. For a large chunk of our elementary staff specifically, this is usually focused on some sort of fast bridge assessment. We want to move our students from 60% at or above benchmark to 65% at or above benchmark. But for these ones, they're honing in on just their specific students in their classroom, whereas the site goal in that same sort of thread is the whole building. Not everybody does a student goal based on a test assessment. Sometimes they do it based on a component of their classroom. So I know we've had science teachers who have done, one of the new things within the new science standards is utilizing significantly more modeling, how you model things in science. So their stuff was working with their students, was working on moving those students from like a 0 or a 1 within a standards-based grading system to 2s and 3s in their modeling skills and abilities. So that goal, the student growth goal, is really up to the teacher and the things that they identify their students need to work on with their specific class or their specific content area. So we set these goals at the beginning of the year. Throughout the year, their coaching sessions with me focus a lot on this. How are we working towards this? What things are you doing? What things have you increased? What things have been working? What things haven't been working? That sort of stuff. So this year, elementary, we met our site goal. So the site goal for elementary this year was to have equal or more than 69% of our students, grades 2 through 6, to be essentially at or above benchmark in FAST. We ended up in the spring with 70% of our students. So we were over by, it ends up being about 2 to 3 kids from what our goal was, which is great. So we hit that. All of our elementary staff hit both their professional and student growth goals for this year. At the secondary level, we did not meet our site goal. They actually ended up having the same goal as elementary, just based on what the fall data is. The percentages we use for this, we start with our fall FAST data. So all the kids take the FAST bridge, fall, winter, spring. We take their fall scores and then determine what the growth should be. Secondary, this ended up being the same numbers, so that's why they look the same. However, the secondary ended up with a 65% of students being at or above for A reading. Professional and student growth goals at the high school, again, both 100% of our staff met. So that's kind of where we're sitting for that. The next parts of this, of course, then are teasing part, kind of, okay, how do we move further? How do we push further? Why did we not hit this goal at the secondary level? What are things we can start to look at as far as implementation and that sort of thing? Is there any specific like demographic of student that we notice we're continually kind of leaving behind, and what do we do to fix that? Those are the next steps within all of this, but this is where we ended for QComp this year. I don't think there's another slide. Oh, just kidding. Changes moving forward. Things we're working on. Yes, sir.
So I think at one of our last meetings that we talked about QComp from last year, you felt as though your hands were tied as far as being able to really help set QComp that would meaningfully move people forward. Was that different this year then? Did you, because part of our goal was to give you a lot more control over, you weren't under the principals, you actually were equal to or above them as to work with the teachers directly. So did you have more ability to make these meaningful professional and student growth goals rather than what it seemed as though last year they were almost just not important?
I would say that I did a more intentional and purposeful job pushing our staff to make meaningful goals. I'm going to answer your question as in some areas yes, and in other areas no. Truthfully, is
Sure.
kind of what we're going to go with. There are components of this that I think we made some really good strides in, as far as like being able to more effectively have the opportunity to guide. Follow through on that was a little iffy, depending on a lot of factors. So at the end of the day, I don't approve who gets and doesn't get Q-Comp. That is not how the program is written. Our principals do. And so that makes things difficult at times. That's where I'm gonna leave that.
So what needs to be done to continue to move that forward so that it is more meaningful? How do we continue?
I think we just.
So if
keep
this
taking-
was a step forward,
Mhm.
how do we make another step
I
forward?
think we just keep taking small steps forward. As we go through some of the stuff on this, as we start moving through some of these things, at the end of the day, I think it will start moving in that direction regardless, just because I have time to be a larger knowledge base about a lot of these things that we have to do, right? We have to do these things from the state.
Yes.
And since I have the time to do that, because I'm not doing all the principal-y things, people will just naturally start utilizing me as a resource more effectively, I think,
Okay.
is going to be, I think it will naturally come, it's just going to take a lot of time. You know, this position has historically been in kind of a wee wonky spot, and we're working on it, and I do feel us moving in that direction, which is good, but it just takes time. Change is hard, it takes time.
Okay.
And so we'll just keep chipping away.
Thank you.
Yep, yes, sir.
Slide back, secondary met both, but students didn't meet.
So again, these are 3 separate goals. So the site goal, the building sets for everybody in the building. The professional and student growth goals, the teachers set themselves, and they don't have to be tied to the site goal. So it can be anything that the teacher wants.
Shouldn't part of the site goal be tied into the teacher's goal for them to meet?
So the site goal, we are required to do how the state tells us to do it. That, like, the reason they're written exactly the same is because that is how the state says you have to write this goal like this. Now, if I am a PE teacher, can I maybe like pull my professional and student growth goal into, sure, we can focus on vocabulary, but as a PE teacher, if I want to build my professional repertoire, spending a whole bunch of time worrying about doing fast bridge prep isn't necessarily going to be what's best for me as a teacher at the secondary level. So that's kind of why, like, yes, I understand, I see where you're like, there's a big discrepancy here. Yes, and that's because those professional and student growth goals are linked to something the teacher wanted. So for example, all of our PE department, their student growth goals were focused on the like fitnessgram, which is the fitness assessment all the kids do from the time they start PE all the way through the end. So it was, they picked specific things that they wanted their students to improve on within the fitnessgram. Because that makes sense for them, right? Like, I'm working on PE, I want my kids' cardiovascular scores to be better, or I want their flexibility scores to improve. And I'm gonna change my instructional practice to continue to improve those. That doesn't have anything to do with the site goal, right? Because the site goal is reading. That's a reading test. So that's why there's that discrepancy there, is because the professional and student growth goals the teachers set for themselves. The site goal is for the whole building based on what the state says we have to tie it to.
So the site goal could completely flunk out, but yet professional and student growth could still hit.
Correct. Yep. Yes. And that unfortunately, that's kind of how that's structured.
That's all I had. Thanks.
Okay, so some things moving forward that are going to pretty heavily impact QComp. First is READ Act. READ Act's a lot. It's okay. We're moving. As Jeremy said, we have 4 people I am one of the 4 people that are currently going through volume 1 of letters so that we can be trainers, so that we can train our staff within our own time, which is going to be hugely beneficial to us. The staff that will be completing all of volume 1 for letters, so there are 2 volumes, it's a 2-year process, will be all of elementary, all of special ed, all of intervention.
Couple high school teachers.
Yeah, because they're doing intervention. That group. All of those humans. So those people will all start letters training in the fall. And we'll be trained through volume 1 through this year, and then next year we'll train them through volume 2. Eventually there will be a phase 2 that we will have to figure out how to work in. Phase 2 is that upper level high school based, so like our ELA department essentially, which the state still has not given out official guidelines as like, these are the programs we want your high school staff to be doing. Obviously the program we're doing right now is very like phonics based and letter recognition based and that sort of thing, which we're finding we have high school kids who are still struggling with that. So it would be beneficial, but there's a much different way you teach that right at the secondary level. So the state still has not released timelines or programs or anything like that for that phase 2 group, but that will be coming. Some of the other things we're going to start doing is piloting a new curriculum. So again, within this, the state has released a whole bunch of different curriculums that they are approving as like good curriculums that they will reimburse at least partially for us. You are allowed to choose one not on the list. However, you have to justify to the state why you are using it after they've already not approved it. So we're gonna start with the list and see kind of how we feel and how those meet the needs of our students here and then go from there. So that'll be something else we'll be doing next year, is piloting that new ELA curriculum. High school PLCs are gonna be moving a little bit more into integrating this MTSS work we are doing, which will be tier 1 interventions. These are classroom level interventions. The demographic of our classrooms are changing, right? Like if you look at number of kids on IEPs, number of kids needing special modifications for things, number of kids who need supports here and there. You know, we're going from having 1, maybe 2 kids in a class to like 3, 4, 5 in a class, and that's just how education as a whole is shifting. So those tier 1 interventions are things that we do within the classroom to help support all kids in the classroom. The goal with MTSS is to get to a point that 80% of students in the classroom are successful. And so within that, that's tier 1, that's academic standards, how we align stuff, how we teach things, how we actually assess what we are assessing. The quizzes and tests and things that we're giving to our students, are they actually monitoring or doing what we need them to be doing? So that's what we're going to be looking at the high school level. And I'm excited to see where that work goes, to be honest. It'll be really interesting. At the elementary level, PLCs are going to be tied back to that letters work and that reading instructional practice work. So we're going to be moving to that with them. And then the last thing is we're going to keep working on our mentoring and onboarding programs. I know Annika's done a ton of work with onboarding. I would love to, we're going to start bringing some of that into our mentoring program as well, and just continue to work on and solidify those programs, because research shows if you get them onboarded correctly, you give them that support early, they stay. And we want to make sure we're keeping our good people here. So those are kind of the things on the docket. I guess there aren't super really changes, but those are things on the docket within this program that we're working on. Yes, sir?
So the 4 people that are getting trained in letters volume 1, you're one of them, or the other 3?
So it's myself, Steph Watts, Liz Winter, and Tammy Seiss. So it's myself and our intervention team, our elementary intervention team, are the 4 of us. So we will finish. We have to take the actual training first, so we'll finish that in July, and then in August, the 4 of us will all take what's called Train the Trainer.
Yep.
So we'll take the 4 days to be able to then facilitate the training here.
Yep, and then you'll be the one training all the
Everybody
staff that
here.
you talked about.
Correct.
And does that training happen over months?
Yes, so it'll be over the course of the school year.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yep, we voted on the new calendar in there.
Yep.
The reason we were
Right.
messing with those dates, so those days will become the days we train them.
Yep.
Volume 1 has 4 units, so that's where each of those extra days is coming from. So the staff will have very specific spots they need to get to before they get to that training, and then we would do all of Unit 1 training, and then we have to get through all the sessions for Unit 2, and then Unit 2 training.
And is the majority of that online training or in person?
So the in-person part of it is a 6-hour thing each time. So each day is a 6-hour plus day. And then the rest of it is a combination of online, actual book, we have a big manual, and then there's something called Bridge to Practice, which is where they read through the session about a thing,
Sure.
and then they take that and apply it in their classrooms. And so that's kind of where the rest of those hours come from. will be in that bridge to practice component.
Great, thank you.
Yep. That's for me. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
All right, on to lunchtime solutions. So we have Susan Gracie here to talk.
You can have my spot. I can have your spot, okay. I didn't sit up here because I felt like I shouldn't sit up there, because I'm not important enough, but I'm going to stand because I've been driving all day, so apologize for that. But thank you so much for having me come up. We got to come up last week and meet with your local team. Great meeting. It was so much fun to meet everyone. First off, I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone sitting around this table, because had you not chosen us, we wouldn't be in this position. I was so excited when I came up and met Wendy and met Jeremy at the pre-proposal meeting, and I just felt at that time it was gonna be a great fit. Our values align. I'm so excited to see your first value is integrity. Guess what our first value is? Same thing. So I feel like we are going to align well as partners. We're excited to bring your students some cool, fun things. We started as a company with one school district. Our corporate office is in North Sioux City, South Dakota, so about 4 hours from here. And it started with Dakota Valley, and we've grown from there. We now service just under 60 schools. May sound like a lot, but in the scheme of school food service, we're still a pretty small company. And we never want to be a great big company, because we want to be able to serve our customers and our students, because we want to be more hands-on. Some of the things that you're gonna see on our menus that maybe some of our competitors do not have on a daily basis is, so you're gonna see something homemade every single day, no matter what it is, whether it's chicken ranch pasta, macaroni and cheese, some fun sandwiches and things. So the kids are gonna be able to have some good choices. I think we started with 3 breakfast choices for K through 12, and then your elementary has 3 choices, and your upper grades have 4 choices every day. We'll start with the 21-day menu that we put in the proposal, because we have to do that by the state, and we'll follow that. We're gonna be asking the students, what do you like? What don't you like? We wanna do the things that are gonna encourage them to eat lunch, fill their bellies, and go do awesome stuff, so that we can say we played a part in their lives when they go on and do cool things. Our mission is fueling the minds of the future, and that's truly where we want to be. For you as a board, we'd invite you to come and eat with us anytime you'd like to, because we want you to see what the kids are offered every single day. We will also offer that we'll come in and do a board meeting, have you guys come through the lunch line, just like the kids do. Whatever they had for lunch that day, we'll have you guys come through the line, eat lunch, and then we can give you some specifics about where your participation is, what your kids like, all of those things, so that we're true partners in this. If there's something that we aren't doing that you want us to do, please tell us. We are more than happy to entertain those ideas and put them into practice if it makes sense for both of us. At the end of the day, we're partners, and we want this to work for both lunchtime and for the school. Are there other, I don't want to get carried away, because you have quite a long agenda, so I don't want to, I told Wendy, I get excited and I like to talk about, because I get excited about things, but getting me to shut up can be a problem. So I don't want to extend my time, but if you have questions, I'd love to answer them for you. Yes.
So what do you think some of your challenges are gonna be, coming into a new school district in an area that, it's not like you've got 5, 6 other schools just right here? What are you thinking are gonna be some of your challenges from the get-go?
Sure. I would say challenges, we're gonna have some of the same challenges that anyone would. We're coming into a new community. We need to find people that want to come and work for us. We had some great people sitting at the table. We had Marlene, who's sitting over there, who I know is your employee, but we love her already. And we had some other great people around the table. So we're gonna be looking for, if there is anyone that you know that is looking for a position, we will absolutely interview them and see if they're a good fit and try to work them in. That's gonna be a challenge. And of course, it's new. It's gonna be someone new. The kids are gonna have to learn how to trust us and try things, because they might not taste the way they did before. we're hoping they taste better than they did before. That's the idea. So that's probably gonna be our biggest challenge. Now our closest school is Adrian, which is probably about 2 hours away. And then on the opposite side of you, we have Wabasha, Kellogg, and Lake City. So you're kind of right in the center of all of that. Our area director, Brian Wright, came down with me last week to meet Wendy and the team here. He lives in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, so he isn't very far away. And he is Mr. Minnesota, I am telling you. When he's not in lunchtime gear, he's wearing something with an M on it. Now, I'm from Nebraska, so I tend to wear a lot of Husker stuff, so you have to forgive me for that. But we have a good rivalry between us because of that.
So,
Thank you.
oh, sorry, on an average day, what would you offer on just an average day?
Sure. So I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I think our first day of school might be macaroni and cheese, hot dogs, and then I believe it's a sub sandwich, and then the high school is gonna get another kind of a sandwich. We are playing also with, as we move forward, if the kids aren't liking that sandwich once we get through the 21 days, then let's switch it up. We can try pizza every day. We can do different things. Something is gonna be homemade though, I can promise you that. And our mac and cheese is fantastic. It is super good. So our menus, and I'll give Wendy, we have a link, it's called My School Menus. Once your menus are live, that'll probably happen here in the next 2 weeks. We have our leadership training this week back in Sioux City. And those menus will be live and you can look at them. They're great. You can change them into 25 or 30 different languages. Gives you all the nutritionals, which is great for parents and students, because if you've got food allergies and things like that, you're able to see how that's all contributing.
Any other questions?
I would venture to guess you saw some of the issues we had with our previous vendor, or did we provide those?
We spoke a little bit after the fact, so we will definitely be we'll be going a little different direction than probably what had been here before, and we're gonna do our best. You guys have fabulous facilities. Your kitchen is great. I couldn't believe the cleanliness of the kitchen and your custodial help just the day of the meeting. It was fantastic. It's great to see that because you don't always walk into that when you come into schools. You never know what you're going to get, but you guys have a great facility and we intend to use that to the best of our ability.
Perfect. And have you posted for the head person for here at this location yet, or?
We have not. We will
Okay.
post that in the next week. We wanted to meet with the local team first because the way we operate is every job that is out there will get advertised. And so the last thing someone wants to see is their job posted when they haven't even been talked to yet. So we wanted to make sure that people knew we want the team that's here. We want them to apply. We want them to pick a job that they feel that fits their life and is going to work for them, and they can apply for that job and be interviewed for it. So we wanted to make sure that we eased everyone's concerns if there were any, that there would be jobs available, and then we'll get those posted. And we will start recruiting right away for that food service director because we want to make sure that we get a top-notch person here. That food service director locally is what's going to drive the program. Brian will be that person's support, and he's not very far away. But that person's gonna drive your program, that person's gonna have the interaction with students, and they're gonna be the ones that are gonna be executing. So we wanna make sure we get the right person in that position, because that is huge and key.
Speaking of finding the right person, do we have anybody that would be part of the interview process for that? Or do you allow for that?
Absolutely. Yes, we will interview everybody that,
Or no, I'm
more
saying
so-
somebody from the district, like
To be on the
our
committee.
admin, like
Oh.
part of the interview committee.
yeah, what we usually do is we'll get the applications, and because we don't live here, we don't know everybody, so we'll
Yeah.
run those past Wendy. When we get down to the final candidates, absolutely, someone can be involved. That'd be great.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, that would be, it's a team effort here, and we're all on the same team, so I think that's great.
Yeah, we would say the same. You know, we're looking forward to a partnership. This is a very important topic. The school board has spent more time than I'm sure they care to on this particular topic. But we've even, Katie Cahill and Tim Burke have volunteered to be representatives from the school board. I don't know if was it not you? Oh, it was Tim. That's right, sorry.
Like you volunteered
Please
us
not.
or what?
Sorry, Tim Elke.
okay.
Tim Elke. But they had been, school board representatives to any time that they needed to be part of, meetings or whatever, volunteered their time to be part of that. But, very much we think of it as a partnership. We all want to succeed. We too want to make sure that food is not something that's in the way of our students being able to achieve great things. So look forward to that partnership. Tim Elke, not Tim Burke, was one of those representatives. Katie Cahill was the other. I don't know if they'll continue or not, but we will make sure that we are very involved.
And we, as a company, we definitely like to underpromise
Sorry, Tim.
and overachieve. And so when we come in, we're always gonna be conservative when we're giving you facts and figures. We want to make sure that we're hitting where we need to be. Every month, someone, whether that's the food, won't be the food service director meeting, because that person will need to learn, but Brian will be in, they'll meet with Wendy every single month to find out what's going on. Are there issues we're not aware of? What are some things we can do differently? Where's your participation numbers? And that's all information that can be shared with the school board every single month. And I think that open communication is key. And Wendy's gonna be tired of us because we'll be asking her tons of questions we already have, which is great because I think that's gonna make it, get us off on the right foot.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for choosing us. We are beyond excited as a company. We do not put out 1 million proposals every year. Some of the other companies may do that, but we're very selective on who we propose for because we feel like if it's not a good fit, the partnership's gonna struggle, and we don't want that. We want to come in and be good partners and have a successful program. Again, so your kids go do cool stuff. That's what we wanna see.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you,
And
Susan.
I will probably bug out so that you can keep your meeting and take the microphone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
See ya.
you.
Drive carefully.
Your phone. You left your phone over there.
Oh, I didn't even realize I brought it. Out of here. Might have been back.
Maybe.
All right, we'll move on to budget information. The historical cash balances.
I guess there's not really much to say. You can see the trends just still kind of following along, so.
Any questions on that?
No, but I had, did we get end of the year enrollment numbers, or did I might have missed that one in the last meeting?
Yeah, it was in the last meeting.
Okay, that's
It'll be
fine.
in the budget proposal
Okay.
in a little bit.
Perfect.
All right. Committee reports, Finance and Operations Committee.
We met on the 4th, so it was a while ago with everything going on. Did go over the budget information a little bit. There was talk about adding additional clerical staff because we might see some retirements in the next few years. Kind of some pros and cons about doing that now versus later. We discussed cell phone lockers and what that would look like, where it could potentially be some different options. What else? Some building, any part about the finance piece? Or questions or anything to add?
Don't know what to ask yet
No, weren't you there?
No,
for the budget.
Who's out?
Tim Elke, you,
Ah,
and Laura.
wrong Tim.
Or-
He was gonna reach out and hit me, and it's like, come on, weren't you there?
I thought so. Building and grounds, summer stuff, they're adding some steps from lower parking lot to upper parking lot. Concrete pad for dumpsters,
Mm-hmm.
fixing sidewalk on south of the parking lot, installing concrete ballards in front of school, possibly looking at a color to paint them. Has any of that started?
No, not with the weather, but, Daryl has, we talked to him today and he's promised that it'll get done before school starts.
Okay. Some more discussion around the roof project. Tree removal, a few of those have happened, or are completely
They're
done.
all done now.
All done down by the baseball field and playground.
Yep.
Equipment needed. That was a couple machines for floor cleaning.
Cleaning the bathrooms.
Yeah, that. Kind of makes sense to do those based off cost. And then Cameron vape detectors.
They're just getting finished up and we're looking at adding
A couple more.
a few more cameras down at the athletic complex, so we have full coverage.
And then there was a piece of a door system update where anybody that has the app downloaded on their phone, they can open and close for anybody. If they've got kids running into the locker room, okay, it's open at this time, you got 10 minutes to get out and it locks, which could help a lot of individuals versus running a key if you're down at the football field or having a kid run up with a key, things like that. So kind of makes sense. He was looking at getting some quotes though.
Still working on the quotes.
Yep.
We're gonna get a sample system, for W3 to give it, to pilot it and see how it works before we get too far into it.
So that's kind of alleviate kids standing there waiting for a coach or somebody to come up.
Yep.
Somebody calls me and I forgot this in the locker room, I need to get in there, I could do it. Or Mike could do it from our phones, from our houses, rather than
Right?
driving
Having to
up
run
here or
in.
whatever. And with the cameras, we can see them go in, them go out.
Sure.
Versus it having open for a certain period of time, like for 4 hours or whatever, if there's something going on. That was kind of it.
It was a lot in that hour meeting we had.
Yeah. Anything to add, Kevin, from it?
I'm sure there is.
All right, any questions on that? All right, thank you,
Policy
Tim.
committee?
Policy committee, you wanna talk? Go.
Doesn't matter.
Or you want me to? Go ahead.
We talked about the cell phone policy, which is included later on in the agenda here. We're also considering, or we're having the appropriate people look at the attendance policy and a policy on, who is able to go on field trips and participate in athletics, to make sure those are set for the upcoming school year. I think that was, and then we'll have some more coming
Next month.
in the future.
I've got a few more to approve because they updated some.
So are there some policies you're looking to make some pretty substantial changes in, or as it relates to attendance, or?
Cell phone for sure. That one you'll see later in the agenda, and that'll be our first reading tonight. And then attendance specifically with, field trips, there's gonna be some significant changes with that. It's, you're gonna have to be passing classes and everything else in order to go on those field trips. It's not just gonna be, I'm a junior now, so I get to go on this field trip. No, you have to be academically passing classes and in good standing to be able to go on those.
Okay.
So, and then as far, with attendance, we always get questions about, okay, I have a headache, I stayed home until, how long can I stay home before I get here and still be able to play or participate in that event going on? So those are some things we need to get defined in those policies also.
And then the communication with attendance. You receive those letters.
There's letters that take a lot of clerical time, principal's time, that really shouldn't, we need to really clean that up.
So those were things you were meeting on, but not ready to
No,
pitch changes yet.
no, not yet.
Got it.
I
No.
want to make sure that Janice and David get to go through the attendance policy and the field trip policy in order to get their suggestions, because they're the ones that do that work.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Anything on that? Or do I have an approval for the consent agenda?
I would make the motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Motion by Kevin Bourne, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Tim Elke. Is there any further?
Burke.
Whoa.
Come on.
Tim Burke,
Whoa.
now you got me doing it!
Wow. Wrong Tim.
Goodness.
Finally. We'll finally get it, maybe by the end of the meeting.
Seconded by Tim
We just gotta
Burke.
trip Joni and Katie up yet.
Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Joni, I want your input on the cell phone policy since hopefully similar to what you guys are doing. Okay.
All right. So, do we have anything on the strategic plan progress?
Strategic plan progress, we're working on our action plans with Sherry Allen, my mentor. She met with, Jeff, Casey, Annika, myself, David, Mike Dashner, and Nikki last week to get us into, some plans on how we should be writing these action steps and, how we need to write the SMART goals for them to make sure they're measurable as we are working on them.
All right. No, doesn't look like any old business, so on to new business. Approve revisions to the fiscal compliance procedure manual.
This is something that we have to put together to prove that we are fiscally responsible to receive federal funding. And we had a review, administrative review this last year, and we were missing some verbiage around, let's see, code of ethics there. So this is something that we are required to have. The district will disclose in writing any potential conflict of interest to the Minnesota Department of Ed in accordance with the district's policy, so that all of our employees who are making decisions around finances with federal funding act ethically, and if we determine there's a conflict of interest, we need to be reporting it. So that, I just also did a little other cleanup as far as, like, if you scroll up a little bit, Jeremy, there's that SERVs and MEGs. The state doesn't use the SERVs system anymore. They've transferred over to MEGs, so just kind of cleaning up a little bit, but then also adding that required documentation or required verbiage for the conflict of interest information. So I'll need to send this off to the state, showing that we have a compliant document and compliant procedures by the end of the month. So I'm asking for approval of adding that.
All right. Any questions?
No.
Do I have a motion to approve the revisions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Tim Burke. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Katie Cahill. Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Approve of MSBA membership.
So this is our membership fees for MSBA each year, so this is an annual thing that comes up for us, so.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the MSBA membership?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Tim Burke, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Katie Cahill. Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. MREA membership.
This is our membership for the Minnesota Rural Education Association. They do a lot of our lobbying for us at the legislature, so this is a great membership to have with them.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Tim Burke. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Katie Cahill. Is there any further discussion, or is there any discussion? If no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. And then approval of the foster care transportation agreement.
Each year, we have to do a foster care transportation agreement for our Title I grant. So in order to submit our Title I grant, we have to work with Mid Prairie County Alliance for foster care transportation. So this is just the agreement we have with them.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the foster care transportation agreement?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Tim Burke. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Katie Cahill. Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Resolution for membership to the MSHSL.
This is our annual membership to be part of the Minnesota State High School League. So, needs to go in by the end of the month. Everybody's on there and ready to go.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Katie Cahill. Do I have a second?
I don't know what to do with that.
I'll second.
Seconded by Tim Burke. And it's a resolution.
Cahill,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Dashner.
Yes. Motion carries 4-0.
Nicely done.
All right. Instructional staff between JWP School District and Southern Plains Educational Cooperative for physically impaired teacher.
So we have to have a physically impaired teacher on our records, and we do that through a cooperative. They come in and work with any students that are physically impaired, or that we have that are physically impaired, and offer suggestions on how we can best serve those students.
And he's on site.
Yes, they come on site when needed.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ha ha ha, it's stirring the pot here. Motion by Kevin Bourne. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Tim Burke. Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Approval of shared service agreement between JWP and SCSC for regional workforce coordination services.
So with South Central Service Cooperative, we do have a regional workforce coordinator. They come in, work with our kids on a number of different things throughout the school year. This just helps pay for some of their fees. This 2 years ago, up until 2 years ago, this was a free service, and then last year they started charging for it. It was $6,000 last year, and now it's $8,000 this year. I think this is a great service to have, especially when we have a new counselor starting with us.
All right, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Tim Burke, do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Katie Cahill. Is there any discussion?
Just real quick, so I'm looking at the services, what are like 2 or 3 of the ones that you're most excited about, how they, that they provide, or just highlight something about this?
They come in and they help us with our juniors went through their day where they can go into the gym and they have to go find a job, find a house, living and all of that. So they come in and work with them throughout the school, or work with the different age groups on different things as they learn those life skills that they're gonna need moving forward.
So they put that on.
They put that on. And then they also will help us with trying to find work-related services for students within our building too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any other discussion? If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Okay, where were we? Approval, the transfer of funds.
This is just some paperwork to go along with paying off our bond that we did in February. And it was just to transfer $510,000 from our project funds into our debt service fund. That's just need a board approval and sign off on that.
I would make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Kevin Bourne. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Tim Burke. Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Ah, nope. It's a resolution.
Burke? Burke?
Yes, sorry.
Bourne?
Yes.
Cahill?
Yes.
Dashner?
Yes. Motion carries 4-0. I have to make it really big resolution. Fiscal year 24 revised budget.
And related to that, we need to do a revised budget showing that transfer. So I worked and kind of updated Matt's document from last year with some more closer to actuals. There was a lot of unknowns a year ago as far as how revenue would come in, and we hadn't had negotiations done. So I updated with closer salary numbers and pupil units and closer revenues and things like that. So, but the most important bit is at the end. We can kind of look through. There's not anything too substantial there as far as the updates done in the different categories in the general fund, salaries. You can kind of see we were able to, and this is compared to the budget projection. So we were very conservative with budgets. We expected a lot bigger raises than what we actually did. So that's kind of where you see that dip or the decrease on those. And so then the general fund, we're still maintaining positive revenue over expenditures with the update. Still that we are still $1 million over our fund balance policy projected. Once we get through year end and see where everything shakes out, but that's the projection for the end of the year. And then here's the bit that you need to really pay attention to is that transfer from the capital funds project into the debt service account to pay off that bond. So it's kind of a quick overview, but if there's any questions on the revised budget, if not, I would ask for your approval.
questions?
You're just gonna have to remind me, so if we approve it, what again, what is that actually tying us to? Because I apologize,
No,
I had
that's
not
okay.
reviewed this.
Yep, no,
ahead of
that's,
time.
it's just our, that you're, approving that these, budget projections, these budget numbers are, reasonable, and, that you agree to how things are shaking out, I guess.
Because again, this is only over 23, 24,
Right, this is
not
just 23,
go
24.
forward.
Right, this is a revision of June, last June, Matt presented the budget, and this is a revision
Okay,
with truer numbers and showing that fund balance, or the fund transfer.
True numbers based off the negotiations that took place in retro back.
Right, yep. Yeah,
And true enrollment,
huh?
or enrollment.
Yep, and then also I updated the pupil units, increased those a little bit too in the tools.
and
so we
actual
had
cash
originally-
received through all the state funding, which we would have estimated.
Yeah, we estimated low, so I kind of brought that up to truer number, so our revenues are a little truer. And then, like I said, the expenditures, we've kind of planned those high, so I kind of brought them truer, so some of them look a little lower, some of them look a little higher, but,
And when do we get the final?
so
That'll be
that, the final thing would be when we
October.
get the audit, yep, October, November is when we'll get our audit report from the auditors, and we'll see exactly what actually happened.
Perfect. I'll make a motion to approve the revised budget.
Okay, motion by Tim Burke. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Katie Cahill. Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Okay, 2025 preliminary budget.
So this one we can spend a little more time on. So this would be our budget that we need to have approved by June 30th in order to spend money in July for next fiscal year. So the first part of it is the assumptions used, just some kind of information about how we calculated the revenues and expenditures. There's a couple of tools that MDE gives out, this different spreadsheets that kind of already preload some of your information, and then you put in pupil units and it calculates everything out, and so that it was a really helpful tool. And then Ellers also has a budget projection tool that I used to build this budget. So the first part, the biggest thing is our general operating fund, and that's a lot based on our pupil units and the allocation from the legislature, our per pupil dollar amount. So this coming fiscal year, we'll have $7,281 per pupil unit allocated to us for state aid. And I used a figure of 645 students to project our revenue for the coming year. It is a little low, like we traditionally do, to kind of help account for if any changes happen, if we have enrollment drops. But this chart there is showing what the enrollment was at the end of the 22 or the 23-24 year is where we were at for enrollment. So I kind of went down a little bit from that to calculate out the revenues that we can expect. Well, this is kind of advancing those kids to the grade.
When do we typically get open enrollment applications?
They come throughout the whole year. It varies.
Any questions on enrollment or?
The one thing I would say is that we're looking at the budget number of 645 for our projected revenue. Next year, I would project that we will see a decrease in that number due to the large senior class that will be graduating next year.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're not getting 70 kindergartners in, so we'll,
That you know of.
that we know of. We'll
How
see.
many Trinity kids do we know?
I think there were 5. I can't remember for sure, 4 or 5. That's kind of the average when you kind of look over the years, the trends. There's generally about 4 or 5 that come over.
Okay.
I mean, that's just a little more information too, as far as how the state calculates. It's really complicated, and they don't give us our final number of how many students we can claim until like the following January. So these numbers all kind of are a little squishy and projected until then.
Lunchtime solutions similar to how Taher operates.
So the general ed aid, and then we get property tax revenue, and then we have other revenues from state sources, federal sources, donations, tuitions, fees, admissions, and things like that. So the one thing to kind of point out, I guess, is the federal sources. The COVID funds will be expended by the end of this fiscal year. So you'll see kind of a drop in that from last year's budget to this year, just because we won't have those COVID funds, but we still do get the special education funds, the Title I and Title II, and then meal reimbursement from the federal government.
So is the 1.18 in property tax assuming under levying again, or is that the maximum amount?
We won't know that, really. I think it's just kind of assuming the maximum, the
So that
levy
is the
season.
maximum. It's not
Yeah.
a number less than if we choose to under levy
We,
again.
yeah, we could choose to under levy, yeah.
So this is the
So,
max.
mhm.
Okay.
Projection right now. The real levy work doesn't start until September, so this is a best guess from the state.
Yep.
Food service fund, yep, we got a bump in the revenue just for the state reimbursing meals. Community ed, keeping pretty steady. That's always kind of a weird one. We don't know how many kids will enroll or how many adults will enroll in different programs, so the revenues, we just kind of take a look at what we've had in the past and budget on that.
Sure.
The debt service fund is, you'll see decreased revenues and expenditures because we are paying less after we paid off the 2014 series. And then our capital project fund, we're just expecting a little bit of interest on our checking account while those funds are sitting there until we spend it all by fall on the roof. So for expenditures, we negotiated through 25, so the salaries are pretty close on as far as what people are contracted and what their raises were. That kind of plays into staffing is our classroom targets. The principals and Jeremy work on keeping our class sizes within those targets to help determine what staffing we will need across the grades. Then there's just different areas of expenditures, purchase services, technology, some of the operating capital, some different things that Mike was looking at, that he was looking at. I did not include the door access points that he was talking about. I kind of forgot about that in the expenditures, but once we get some information on that, we can do a revised budget in fall or in winter, once we have a little more information as well, so. And then food service again, I've got that updated with lunchtime solutions bid, and You'll see a decrease in expenditures because last year we purchased the new dishwashers. I think a lot of the equipment in the kitchen is all new and updated, and so we're not expecting any big equipment purchases in the kitchen. But our food service fund is still very healthy, so if there were anything that came up, we would comfortably be able to replace it, I think. And then community ed, again, just the salaries and purchase services, and then again, some of those salaries and things will kind of offset depending on enrollment for different rec and rec programs and things like that, ECFE programs. And I kind of already talked about debt service. Oh, I guess I did put in the two bonds we have left are the 2017 series. The first, we could pay it off in 2026 if we wanted to. The 2021 bond payment, the IAQ project, we would be able to pay that off after February 2030. So those will just sit there in the back of our minds, and we'll just keep paying on them until we get closer to those dates, and we can talk about what we want to do. And then, as I mentioned, we have to pay off or expend those project funds by October. So we will definitely do that with our roofing and the other couple things that we've been working on this year. So then the numbers. The purple column is the revised budget, which you just approved, and then the orange column is the 24-25 projections and proposal. So you can see we're still keeping our revenue over expenditures. We've got a positive number there, give us a little cushion. Our fund balance will keep us above our policy of 25% of our expenditures, so we'll still have our fund balance policy met as reserved. These are a couple of graphs showing pie charts showing kind of how the revenue is split, where the sources are, where it comes from. It's kind of hard to read the small on this screen, but and then our expenditures, where those kind of fall as far as different categories. Of course, we're in the business of teaching kids, so salaries is our biggest chunk. Salaries and benefits is our biggest chunk, but food service fund. Here again, I used the 23-24 meal counts to come up with our reimbursements on the revenue side. So depending on participation, you know, those numbers will change if more kids or fewer kids are eating. It's all reimbursement, so it depends on who's eating for what we get. And then the expenditures, we've got Marlene's salary there. And then the purchase services, that includes everything from lunchtime solutions, utilities, and then equipment and repairs. That's kind of a big gamut of things that just repairs and supplies and things like that.
So the substantial decrease in sources of revenue around the lunch, the state lunch reimbursements, the federal lunch reimbursements, just remind me why the drastic drop?
Probably just participation. You know, if more kids are eating lunch, we get more money. Fewer kids are eating lunch. So, and it's possible that the budget that Matt put together was based on higher participation numbers than what I looked at for this year.
So it's not that the state or the federal are changing their programs
Nope.
much?
Nope.
It's purely driven by participation.
Right. Yep. And that purple again, it was a guess on participation. So,
And could have that been partially Tahoe service? So if increase
yeah.
lunchtime solutions is better, those numbers might go up.
It might, yep. And I don't want to say that that purple column is anything close to actual. I guess I never really looked at, you know, what figures Matt used to come up with those numbers. He maybe overestimated participation. It's not necessarily indicative of a drop in participation. So we are spending more, expecting to spend more than we'll take in. But we do have a fund balance. If you see on the bottom there, that 181,000 is kind of what we're projecting in the fund balance. And we should be hitting closer to zero. So, spending that down is something that we've been trying to do for several years. Good news is the legislator did just allow, lunchroom furniture, tables and chairs to be purchased from this fund. So if that is something that anybody feels is necessary, we'd have money to do that. Then community service fund. Again, these revenues, the tuition and fee revenue is kind of based on somewhat what we've done in the past. Went a little more conservative estimate, I guess, than to show that drop there is just kind of just being a little conservative. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, purchase services under food service, is that basically the contract?
Yep. Yep.
So we're expecting to spend 9% less
Yep.
with lunchtime services than TAR.
That's right.
Okay. Sorry to be going
Nope,
back.
that's
I'm
okay.
just not,
That's all right.
again, I didn't review this ahead of time. My apologies.
Community ed's kind of the same as food service, where I kind of went a little conservative on the revenues. The state aid and levy was a little higher. We had some ECFE levy that I did, so we could do some purchasing of different things. So you'll see that expenditure under the equipment, that $16,000. So that's why there's a big jump in the state aid and levy. But we may not take that again. I'll have to talk to Lisa and see what kind of expenditure. So that revenue figure may go down a little bit. Otherwise, the expenditures are all kind of similar to, I guess, increased a little bit. Supplies, we kind of increased a little bit here and there. We still are in the black for community ed overall with a $96,000 expected fund balance at the end. So spending more than we're taking in is okay this year. It's kind of nice to have that in the black after many years of being in the red for for community ed. Any questions on community ed? And then the debt service, again, is just kind of an in and out, paying on our bonds. We'll get revenue from levy and aid to pay those payments. The state requires it to be a little higher in our budget to make sure that we have enough money to pay those. And then our capital project, I'm expecting just a little bit of interest revenue this year, and I'm expecting that we spend it all because we have to. So that will zero out by the end of the fiscal year.
Perfect.
He's still scrolling.
Sorry,
No, you're
No,
fine.
you're good.
I'm almost there.
Wendy, the food service one,
Mm-hmm.
there is a statement in their contract of us gaining or earning money from that.
Sure,
also.
yep, yes, so Lunchtime Solutions in their projections, in their financial projections are showing that we would have up to $124,000 revenue over expenditures before any of our other expenditures in food service. So that, which I did not really reflect in here as far as our fund balance at the end. So that 181,000 may very well grow by the end of the, fiscal year as well. So.
And
I'm
that's
not,
never
not at all concerned about a deficit in the food service fund.
And that's never something we can offer to take less to put more into quality and quantity.
We can work with them on that, because they do give us it's cost reimbursable, so everything that they spend, we pay them back for. But they do have a max per meal that they say they'll charge us. So there's some kind of work we'd have to do to get that to even out and work well.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary budget.
Okay, motion by Tim Burke. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Katie Cahill. Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Approval of the school resource officer contract with the city of Janesville.
Thanks for your work on that, Wendy.
Yes.
This is, our contract with the city is up for our school resource officer. This would be the new contract. It's formatted different, has a little bit more information in it than our previous contract, but it does have all of the information from our previous contract in it. I went through it with Chief Johnson and Clinton Rogers last week to make sure all of the information was in there that we needed in there. And the state has given us some information that we had to make sure was in there also, which is in there. So it's very similar to our previous contracts with the city on this. The one big difference is that this is a 3-year contract rather than a 2-year contract. However, we can always, we always have that opportunity to get out of the contract given enough time if we so choose to.
Where does this compare to us where we were at last year?
We're within, I think we're within about $6,000 of last year. I gotta figure out how to make this larger.
Is that last year's or is this year's?
This is the proposed for this year.
Oh, yeah, I got that one.
If I remember correctly, and that was a long time ago, but I thought it was around 80, it was at 82 last year.
And it's always been that 70-30 split, right?
Yes.
And we get a portion of this reimbursed by state or federal, or
We
is
get-
this?
Yeah, we use some of our school safety money to help cover this cost.
And this is something you do want to continue?
Yeah, I would like to continue this. We just started our DARE program back up. We have some other ideas to make this person, or make this job more useful and doing different things within our building. We talked about it in our policy committee meeting tonight even.
Any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the school resource officer contract?
I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion made by Tim Burke. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Or sorry, second by Katie Cahill. Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Next is the cost reimbursable contract with Lunchtime Solutions.
Andy, this is you.
A lot of this contract is prescribed by the state, so there's not really much to change. Just kind of outlines that they will, it's cost reimbursable, they will work on our site, they will serve lunch and breakfast, those are the programs, and special milk that we participate in. And then the fees here, those are up a little higher as their administrative fee per meal. This, oh, down. There we go, the fixed administrative fee. This is, Kevin, where I was kind of talking about where they have these prices per meal that they say is the max that they will charge us, so. Just kind of outlines who is doing what as far as whether the vendor or the school district. This contract is very similar to, logistically, very similar to what we had with Taher, and kind of how a lot of cost reimbursable contracts work, so.
Will they look to target the same number of kitchen staff as Taher, or is it more or less?
I believe so. I mean, I think a little more. I think at the end, we were kind of bare bones, knowing that they were on their way out. So they've talked like they will make sure that we are fully staffed, make sure they have enough hands on deck to keep us running smoothly.
And how many year of agreement are we going into?
This is a 1-year agreement, and then at the end of 1 year, we have the option to renew it for up to 4 more years at like a inflationary change to the price, but the contract would remain the same.
Without doing an RFP?
Right, without doing an RFP.
Okay.
Yep. And we'd have the option to go out to bid after 1 year if we wanted to again. I don't want to, but we,
Right.
we could. I mean, I think if it doesn't work out, we're kind of down to, then we'd have to maybe self-operate, but, so. I'm very optimistic. I think they seem like Susan and Brian, who I've worked with in pulling this together and working through this contract are seem like they'll be really great. I'm very optimistic. Yeah, so there's just a lot of pages of a lot of state-required things. We went back and forth a little bit. The state approved it. The state has to approve it before you guys do, so. If there's any questions.
I would make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Kevin Bourne. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Tim Burke. Is there any discussion? If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0.
Thanks for your work on this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That was not a very fun template.
I learned a lot.
I bet. Let's see, approval of the 24-25.
Student information system.
There we go, support agreement with ARCC. Do we have to approve each one separately?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that's just addendums. So the ARCC is the Arrowhead Regional Computer Consortium, and they are a, kind of like our Region 5 tech support company, kind of like our Southwest Service Co-op, whatever. And they are contracted to do tech support for our Infinite Campus student information system. And they have been so amazing. They're really great. They have been very helpful, very worthwhile, very accessible, very helpful.
Surprised to see us in northeast Minnesota. Supporting districts in
Yes, well,
northeast Minnesota.
Right, we did have, our contract was through South Central Service Co-op, but they no longer are offering that, and Arrowhead does, so it moved to the Arrowhead.
All right.
I would move to approve.
All right. Motion made by Kevin Bourne. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Tim Burke. Is there any discussion?
Is it all three of them?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. So now we have the approval of the resolution placing Josh Lawrenson on unrequested leave of absence.
Okay, I'll explain this a little bit. Going through this process, learning more about this process is, we did a resolution back in April to place Josh on an unrequested leave of absence. So we did that. Now we have to give Josh time to request a hearing if he chose to, and we have to give until June 1st. And now he did not request a hearing, therefore we have to do a resolution approving it a second time, and then we'll send the official paperwork through certified mail to Josh's residence.
And this is for both of them?
This will be for both. We'll have to do them separate. but
Right.
It's the same situation for both of them.
Okay.
And he was the
Choir.
He's choir teacher.
Is the choir.
Is
Yes.
the
It
choir
is.
teacher.
Yep, and it's a reduction from a 1.0 to a 0.86.
I make the motion to approve this resolution.
Motion made by Kevin Bourne. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? If no discussion, it's a resolution.
Burke,
Yes.
Bourne,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
and Dashner.
Yes. All right, same thing for approval on the resolution, placing Jeffrey Kubal on unrequested leave of absence. Do I have a
I'll make
motion?
Motion.
Motion by Tim Burke. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Katie Cahill. Is there any discussion? If no discussion,
Bourne,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Dashner.
yes. And then the first reading of the cell phone use policy.
I didn't have access.
Yep, we didn't have access.
You don't have access?
No.
Okay, I'll give you access.
Didn't say it for saying it.
I thought I did.
Probably gave it to Tim, I'll keep it on me.
Oh, you already gave it to Laura.
Or maybe it was the other
Joey.
Tim.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there used to be 3 Tims on it.
Now you have access. You don't need to do any, well, just read it
Just read
before
it.
the next meeting. Come back with any questions or suggestions.
All right.
So then the upcoming meetings is June 24th, 4:30, the superintendent evaluation, which is going to be a closed meeting. July 15th is a regular school board meeting. August 19th, a regular school board meeting. September 9th, finance and operations committee meeting. And September 16th, a regular school board meeting.
Katie, is there anything you want to say about the cell phone policy ahead of time as we
added
review
a
it?
few things, and I think the part I like best of what Jeremy added was the reason why, like what's motivating it.
Okay.
It's down at the
That's
bottom
at the
there.
very bottom, and it's highlighted in green,
Okay.
so. And this isn't original work on our part. We went out and
Sure.
searched and found some, what we thought were good policies that were already in place, so.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank
I know
you.
we suggested Joni look at it because New Richland is successfully doing it, and see if there's anything
you.
that she suggests.
All right. With that, then we'll adjourn the meeting at 7:04.
I need you to sign this before you
Do you have access to it?
Could you meet next Monday after the teacher
You guys have
or my
access?